Good afternoon, and I'm here with the Foreign Minister to make some remarks about the South China Sea Arbitration that was the judgment of which was released last night. Let me now move to the decision of the arbitration decision announced last night. This tribunal, as you know, is established in accordance with the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which is a codification of international maritime law. It was established so that countries can resolve disputes peacefully in accordance with international law. The UN Convention on the Law of the Sea and the Arbitral Tribunal are absolutely crucial elements of the international rules-based order which underpins peace, stability and prosperity around the world, but especially in our part of the world for decades. All of us, all countries, large and small, have benefited enormously from this system, which facilitates trade and enables disputes to be resolved in accordance with rules rather than by coercive means. Now, as Julie has said, and we have both said on many occasions, we have no position on the competing claims to sovereignty. We have no claims of our own. But we insist that it is absolutely vital that all countries abide by international law, settle disputes peacefully, and in the context of this particular dispute that has been the subject of the decision last night, that both countries abide by the decision of the tribunal. It is an important test case for how the region can manage disputes peacefully. It's an opportunity for all parties in the region to come together and for claimants to re-engage in dialogue with each other based on greater clarity around maritime rights. So both of us have been urging claimants to refrain from coercive behaviour and any unilateral actions designed to change the status quo in the disputed areas. As I've said many times, every nation in our region has benefited enormously from the many, many decades of relative peace and tranquility in this region, and it is vital that that is maintained. There is so much at risk in the event of conflict, in the event of heightened tensions. So this is an important decision. It is one that has been made in accordance with international law, and it should be respected by both parties and indeed by all parties and all claimants. Julie, do you want to add to that?
Yes, thank you, Prime Minister. As the Prime Minister indicated, Australia has consistently said that we take no position on the competing claims on the issue of sovereignty, and of course this decision did not relate to sovereignty, it's about maritime rights. We do, however, have a deep interest in the peace and stability of the South China Sea, and it is an important trade route for Australia. It is also a very important maritime route globally, and so we urge all claimants, because there are a number of competing and overlapping claims in relation to the South China Sea, to resolve their differences peacefully, to negotiate, and in the case of the Philippines arbitration, for both parties, China and the Philippines, to respect the outcome of that decision. It is final, it is binding, and it now gives deep clarity on the international law as applicable to the South China Sea. We will be discussing this matter at the East Asia Summit and the ASEAN Regional Forum, which has been convened for the 25th and 26th of July. I intend to attend that meeting, or that series of meetings, where this discussion will take place. In the meantime, we urge all parties to de-escalate tensions, not take any action that would provoke or increase tensions. I am rather surprised to hear Stephen Conroy talk about military action at this point. That is in stark contrast to the statements of the Shadow Foreign Minister and the Shadow Attorney General. And quite frankly, if the claimants were to follow that advice, they would be further apart from negotiating a solution, rather than doing what the Australian government urges, and that is bringing the parties together to negotiate an outcome.
Can I ask the Foreign Minister, just to clarify, the Australian Defence Forces carried out freedom of navigation exercises quite frequently through the South China Sea, but we have not gone close to these artificial structures that China claims. Now, Stephen Conroy's urging you to do that. Is there any chance you will actually do that?
Stephen Conroy is urging an escalation of tensions. What he is urging would inevitably lead to an escalation of tensions were it to be followed. I think that's a highly irresponsible call at this point. The decision was handed down yesterday. A number of nations are absorbing the detail of it and analysing what it means more generally. It was a very clear decision, but the Australian Defence Force will continue to exercise the international rights of freedom of navigation and freedom of overflight, as we have done in the past. But other than that, I wouldn't go into the details of ADF operations. We don't do that, and we're not about to start.
Mr. Senator Conroy is steaming in a direction all of his own. Everybody else in the region is calling for calm, consideration. And I think one of our ASEAN neighbours called for sobriety in the way in which the decision was absorbed and considered, and only Senator Conroy appears to be calling for an escalation of tensions. And I have to say, I'm relieved that that Mr. Shorten and the Shadow Foreign Minister are not taking the same approach.